You are listening to the UnmedOKAYted podcast, hosted by Mark Nicholas and Kyle Wolf.
All right, so today's guest is a comedian, an actor, a writer, but more importantly, he is a man who knows a song about everything. It's Mitch Benn, everybody. Hey, Mitch.
Good afternoon, or indeed evening, morning, whatever it happens to be, wherever you are. Hello.
Yes. Well, Mitch, I'm going to ask you what I ask every single guest who comes on the podcast. Mm-hmm. What do you got?
What you mean? What's going on in here?
What's going on in that noggin? What's going on in that noggin of yours?
I've got the works, mate. I mean, I'm the absolute classic late diagnosed. I mean, sort of the suspicion set in when my eldest was diagnosed autistic about 6 or 7 years ago. And, you know, everything that was weird about him is all the same shit that's always been weird about me. Like, oh, wait a minute. My life is starting to make a bit more sense into this particular prism. So I managed to, my wife, Kathy, managed to get me sorted out for a couple of online diagnoses, and they had me up for ADHD first. And the way I tell it, I've actually got whole routines about it. You know, the way that, yeah.
A comedian with ADHD, you shock me. You shock me, Mitch.
I mean, Ed Burns got a routine about being diagnosed. He said, when you're a comedian being diagnosed ADHD, it's not like being told you have skin.
How did Ed Burns not know?
Oh, no, but you know, I've known Ed since we were like 22 and 24. The worst thing about that is I've known Ed for over 30 years now, and like when I met him, we were a couple of peach-fuzzed indie kids, and it's not so much that I don't feel old enough to have known Ed for 30 years. I don't feel Ed's old enough for me to have known him for 30 years. So we were a couple of sort of peachy-faced indie kids when we met in like 1994, and he's still a peachy-faced indie kid, and I'm now Angry Santa. So,
you know what? Have you ever called the solo show Angry Santa?
No, that may happen.
It has to happen.
I mean, if I do a solo Christmas show, although my Decembers just recently have been given over to this thing I've been starting to do, which is my one-man version of A Christmas Carol. I've been doing that for it. It's fun because it's just a really fun thing to do, and also it gets me out the comedy clubs for December because they are an office piss-up hellscape.
Yes.
So do you play every single character?
It's 27 characters plus the narrator. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, including Tiny Tim.
So what would you say your best portrayal is out of all the 27?
Oh, well, she's a Christmas present. I mean, look at it, you know.
So how do you...
oh, my God, yeah.
On,
I'm sorry, I'm just thinking of the Muppet.
He's the one, I mean, it almost says in the 1843 text, you know, but a client glorious to see. He sat in easy state upon this couch being played by Mitch Benn. It practically says that in the original text, you know.
Does that not overwork and overload your brain a bit? Does that not cause...
no, not really. My brain quite enjoys being overloaded. It needs to be unloaded every now and again.
Yeah.
You know, when I'm working, if anything, overload is kind of my natural state of being. It's just, you know, during whatever fragments of downtime I ever get, that's when it becomes a bit of a problem. You know, I mean, you know, I've always said, you know, just a noisy brain, because I kind of always resisted ADHD because, like most people of my generation, it's the H, it's, you know, the hyperactivity thing. You know, I think most people we associate ADHD with, you know, uncontrollable 6-year-olds who bounce off the walls and break the furniture.
So 6-year-olds.
Yeah.
That's just 6-year-olds.
Yeah, exactly. But you know, but that's the point. Is it wasn't me, you know, because you know, and it's, you know, it's about kids who can't sit still. And I got to say, you know, of all the things I had difficulty with as a child, sitting still was really not one of them.
Brother, we are akin.
We are akin here. Sitting still at a surprisingly early age, and frankly, I could sit still for the Olympics.
It's not that we can do the physically sitting still, but our minds are constantly are just.
I've always said,
off.
you know, you think I'm loud on the outside.
Don't want to go there.
Yeah, try it in here, mate. And in here, it's like a sort of a prison riot kicking off next to an AC/DC concert next to an idling jetliner, and that's just when I'm trying to get to sleep. So no, there's a constant barrage of stuff going on inside the brain, and sometimes you can channel it, sometimes you can refine it and turn it into something useful, and sometimes it's just zinging around inside the inside of your skull.
So is it autism and ADHD?
Oh God, yes, also.
Oh, since you've got everything.
Yeah.
See, I'm autistic. Carl was ADHD.
Get out of here.
Yeah, I know. You wouldn't have said. You wouldn't have said. Yeah, I know. No, it's not like I ever talk about it at all. Like, it's not like I had to find my whole comedy on it. But this is the thing.
The
When I
risk of
first
being
got
brutal,
into,
mate,
when
you
I
don't
first-
have to talk about it.
When
I'll
I-
lay that on you. Yeah.
I know. Do you know what? I'm really glad you said that, because do you know what people have said to me, Mark? Are you sure you're autistic? Then they spend more than 1 minute with me and go, actually, you really are.
You really
People
are, yeah.
just assume I'm not, like, just if they see like a glimpse of me, but then more than 30 seconds.
But then again,
and
you know, people again have still got entirely the wrong idea. I mean, but, you know, they've all seen Rain Man, and that's it. You know?
yeah, and then there
it's
is
like,
well, because
you know.
also like because there is all these stereotypes that me and Cole have found. Like, because Cole, I say when there's Cole's ADHD, I'm the one that's worse at timekeeping than him, and everyone always associates that with ADHD. But I don't know, I have some weird times like
well,
this.
for me, that's because I've had some quite I've been not positively shamed by.
That's an interesting concept.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, I've been
That's
called
how
out.
very niche.
Well, I've been called out on my timekeeping to a point where I'm just like, it's not okay to be late.
Right.
So I just now make every point and every effort to not be.
Whereas
Yeah.
I assume I'm just going to be on time, and then
Yeah.
it all goes wrong, and then I start, yelling at the trains, not the TFL staff, the trains. They're the ones that get the target. Why are you not on time? Why are you not exactly 2 minutes? Oh, that's right. I didn't leave myself 5 minutes to walk down the escalator.
Whereas I, on the other hand, don't perceive time in a linear fashion. Altogether more like Dr. Manhattan. You know, it's like all time is equal as far as I'm concerned. Although I genuinely feel that seems to become the case since, and don't talk it so much in sort of micro time, like being late early for stuff, but in terms of general overall perception of time. Time for me ceased to be linear once we got over the millennium. I mean, I was
all
born in
resets itself.
Yeah, well, I was
doesn't it?
born
Yeah.
in 1970, so like, for the first 30 years of my life, the millennium was like this vast sort of, chronological monolith on the horizon that we were slowly inching towards. And it was going to be this massive kind of turning point, the massive kind of watershed. Oh my God, the years are going to start with a 2. You know what I mean? And so we were sort of inching towards this vast sort of incident, and then we got to the other side of it, and suddenly I kind of lost all sense of linear progress just from being on the other side of it. For me, if I think about stuff that happened in 2003, it doesn't feel any longer ago than the stuff that happened in like 2017.
Do you know what?
Do you know what I mean?
That does feel like it. It feels
Yeah.
like, the 2003 stuff is,
Whereas I
it's-
think about stuff that happened in 1989, and it feels a lot more recent than the stuff that happened in 1982. You know, and
crazy,
it's so weird. I seem to have lost all sense of linear time once we got over there. I wonder. I've asked if anybody else has experienced that, but it is. I mean, it's all very subjective anyway. As
Oh
we
yeah,
know,
no,
you know.
I mean, this is the thing. This is what you find when you talk to different neurodivergent types. We're all our own kind of individuals. There's no kind of. We all might have things in common, but different. Right. So we get on to our topic for today.
That's great podcasting. That is. Shall we get on to the topic?
Do you know what? I do not know how to make a smooth segue. This is why it's called UnmedOKAYted, this podcast, because it's. I think when we interviewed Robin, it took about half an hour to get onto the topic, whereas we've got half an hour to record this. So it's like, so yes.
I do love Robin, but his mind is like a gas. It expands to fill the available space. It really does.
We will make sure we tag him in this when it goes out on the socials.
All right,
He'll
easy.
probably take about a year to go, oh yeah, hi guys. Right, so driving, how long have you been driving for?
I didn't learn to drive until I was in my 30s. I made a
Okay.
sort of cursory attempt at it when I was like 17, as you do.
Yeah.
Took a few lessons, never got around to taking my test. Then when I was 18, I moved up to Edinburgh to go to university. Edinburgh is the least car-friendly town on the planet. There is nowhere to park anywhere in the entire city. And, of course, I don't know if you've ever been to Edinburgh. It's like a Morris Escher lithograph. It's the most ridiculously three-dimensional. Half of it's up and down staircases. You know, it's
God,
like,
it's ridiculous,
there's a lot of the city's just literally inaccessible by car, you know. So I just kind of forgot all about it, to be honest.
Yeah, of course.
When I lived out to Edinburgh, moved out to Edinburgh, moved down to London when I was 26, and again didn't really start to think about it for a good few years. And then I started to gig up and down the country a lot as a comedian, and also the rail network started to get so bloody unreliable that I started to miss gigs through no fault of my own because the trains just stopped in the middle of nowhere. And the thing about that is at least when you hit a bit of lousy traffic in the car, even if you have a bit of engine trouble, there's ways of improvising around it. You've got you can get resourceful, whereas if you're stuck on a train, you just you're in this
You're not
can
in
in the
control,
middle.
are you?
Yeah, this is it. There's absolutely nothing to do. So I realized, oh god. And the other thing is also it became quite kind of quite depressing, always being the whiny arsehole who needed a lift everywhere. You know what I mean? I think it's just, oh, God. So I eventually got around to learning to drive when I was like 31, I think. And so I've been driving for 25 years now, which is, and it's weird to think that it took me that long to learn to drive, because since I learned to drive, it seems to be pretty much all I do.
Yeah.
You know, because being a jobbing comedian, I probably put more miles in than anybody who doesn't have an HGV license. You know, I mean,
Yeah,
it's not uncommon for me to do, you know. I mean, that's the one reason I haven't gone full EV yet. I've had hybrids the last couple of cars I've had. But full EV would be kind of difficult for me to do the kind of driving that's not unusual, where I would literally get in the car, drive to Leeds, get out the car, be in Leeds for like an hour, get back in the car, drive back from Leeds, you know, and that's genuinely difficult in an EV, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
You've got to time your chargings altogether more meticulously than I suspect I would be able to do, but anyway.
How is driving impacted by your neurodivergence?
Well, it's very difficult to say, because I don't really have anything to compare it to. This is always the thing about neurodivergence. I've only ever been me. You know what I mean? I mean, I can compare it. You know, so there was never a time when. I mean, there was a time when I didn't know I was. You know, until relatively recently, I didn't know I was. I think one of the things is, I don't know. And again, I think this contributed to me not learning to drive until it became a necessity. Is that I don't have that kind of weirdly semi-erotic relationship with cars that men are supposed to have.
That's exactly the that's exactly the point that I'm at right now. I'm 34 and I'm just now starting to take my driving lessons seriously, because I now live out of London. I live in Hertfordshire, don't you know? And weird. I don't know if you know this, Mitch. London transport does not extend to Hertfordshire.
No. And I think that actually was the kind of thing which made me really want to learn, was not so much the long distance gigs. You know, you've gone all the way to Newcastle, you kind of expect to stay in Newcastle, however you got there. It was doing gigs in places like Aylesbury.
Do you know what? I've just been asked to do a gig in Aylesbury, and I'm just like, wow, okay.
High Wycombe or something like that, where you know the last train home is going to be like at 11:04. And you're going to get off stage at 10:48 and rupture a bloody lung trying to catch the damn.
That's
or you're going to end up stranded all night in fucking Aylesbury, you know, and it's like...
when there's literally one train in, one train out.
Yeah. So it was that kind of gig which made me long to have a motor, you know, rather than the really long haul ones.
It's the same with me. Like, since I've realised that I desperately need a car because when you go up and down the country, and I live in London, and I'm one of very few places in London. I'm in a like a.
It's not really London, though, is it?
Oh, it's East London. It's Chingford. I know used to be Essex back in the 60s.
What tube is it on? What tube is it on? What tube is it on?
London Overground. The Weaver Line.
The Weaver Line.
Yeah, whatever they call it now. Anyway, point is, we're one of very few places in East London that has residential parking that they don't charge for. So I'm like, we should get a car, really. And again, it would help with the comedy. But I've been learning for 3 years, had my test in January, and was going okay until I was asked to drive into the test car park, and I crashed into the gate. And soon as, no, they had to intervene. And the moment they have to intervene, it's an incident, it's a major. And I was just, I failed first time, and I was like, because I've been learning for 3 years, it was so frustrating.
I'm sure.
Like, did you pass first time?
No, second time.
Second time, okay, that makes me feel a little better.
I'm not entirely sure why I failed the first one, but I do remember that the instructor took one bloody look at me, and I thought, I'm going to fail this. the minute the instructor looked at me, I thought, he's gonna fail me, because at the time I had like arse length hair, you know what I mean, and I had sort of like long sort of prog hair, and I remember he just took one, and I could hear him think, long head bloody layabout, you know what I mean? I could just hear him think that, and I thought, I'm got a prairie. You know, and of course, the minute that happens, you're on the back foot and you're going to fuck up, aren't you?
This is kind of me asking for a bit of advice now, but how do you deal with listening to having like the radio on and concentrating on the road and stuff?
I find it very helpful. Weirdly, and I just mentioned this one man Dickens thing that I do. I find one of the easiest ways because I have to re-memorize the damn thing every year. I mean, every year it gets a bit easier because it's faded away a bit less since the last time. But I've done it 3 years on the trot now, and I did it the first time actually as a one-off back in 2019. Then, of course, everything went away for a couple of years. But I actually found that a really good way of learning that is I've got a recording of it. It's the abridged version. I did the whole thing as an audiobook years ago, which is what started the whole thing off. And then people said, oh, you should try and find a way of doing this live. And then I discovered that Dickens himself used to do it live in his later years in the 1860s, while after he wrote it. And to this end, he himself came out with an abridged live version of it, which takes like an hour and a bit rather than 3.5 hours. And so once I discovered the existence of this text, I managed to, base the show around that. But I had a recording of it, and what I found was a really good way of actually, for some reason, it seemed to go in listening to this while driving to and from gigs. And it's something about, do you find that split focus enables you to concentrate much better on one of the two things?
Well, I've got a split screen. I've got two computer screens at work. So that really does help.
If you just try and concentrate on one thing, that one thing suddenly becomes like really intrusive.
Yes.
And kind of overwhelming. Whereas if there's another thing going on, so I find it easier to concentrate on either one of them,
So my instructor very straight away started talking to me during my lessons, and she deliberately did that and was having a chat and like going on. She went, the idea is for you to be able to have that back. So I've kind of trained myself because I am quite hyper focused as a person in general.
Right.
Like I can't see the wood from the tree, sort of thing. I'm meant to take out the bin. No, I'm in a like a deep dive into like all the old Doctor Who's or something. I don't know. That is the example, and it's 5 hours later, still haven't taken out bin. So I get really hyper focused. So my instructor will deliberately try and keep me talking and doing different things, and she's actually really good and incredibly patient. And but I feel like I'm a better driver as a result. And actually, I feel like it has helped me improve other areas. But actually, do you find because obviously being a musical comedian, you sing and play at the same time. So actually, that's nothing really new, do you?
Well, I mean, that's it's all muscle memory, really. I mean, like learning to drive is like any other skill.
Yeah, muscle memory.
I mean, playing guitar is one of the archetypal examples of muscle memory. I mean, it's when you start learning guitar, you have to place each individual finger on each individual fret and string to create the, and then eventually go bring, and there's the chord, and obviously as you learn to play, you're not even thinking about it's the same with when you're writing, when you write your name. Not only do you not think about the individual letters of your name, you're not thinking about the C is a curly bit, and the O is a round bit, and the L is a straight bit, and the I is a little bit with a dot. You know what I mean? You just go name. Whereas tying your shoes, watch your fingers the next time you tie your shoelaces. They perform all kinds of crazy maneuvers that you were completely unaware of. Well, you know what I mean? And that's pure muscle memory. And I couldn't actually tell you what my fingers do when I tie my shoes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? I'd have to think about it long and hard. What do my fingers do when you tie shoelaces? You just, your brain just goes, tie your shoes, and your hands go, okay.
But there's certain things about driving, because obviously, yes, I did fail, so I'm not like qualified. But there is certain things about driving now. My instructor will point out to me, you couldn't even make it at the end of the road in that first lesson. Now you do roundabouts, everything like that. You do it actually more instinctive than you think you do. It's only when you start to think, oh my god, I'm driving, then you panic, like, oh my god, this is a huge metal
I'll tell you a classic example of that is lyrics. If I'm singing a song with maybe particularly complicated lyrics, if I start thinking about them, I'll get them wrong. If I just let my mouth get on with it, they just come right out. You know what I mean? But if I start thinking about what the next line is, I can actually screw myself up. Even a song I know incredibly well.
And you've been doing
for years. You can throw yourself. You start thinking about what the words are. If you just let your mouth get on with it, they just come straight out. So muscle memory is a fascinating thing, but it's very much a thing. It's like it's sort of, but we get those kind of weird processes that bypass, go straight from the autonomic systems into your various sort of limbs and extremities and bypass your conscious mind. I mean, talking. Yeah, talking. I'm not actually having to think about articulating everything or what are these sounds, but my mouth and tongue are performing all kinds of crazy maneuvers to make these sounds, and I'm not thinking about any of them.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's muscle memory is quite fascinating.
Hi, I'm Sam Rhodes, one of the co-founders of LAFS, the London Arts Facilitation Society. If you're enjoying watching or listening to any of this content, we'd really like you to donate a little bit of cash to help us build access to all of this wonderful stuff for working class people from all over England. You can go to laughs.org.uk to donate as little as £1 a month to help us keep the lights on and help us make lovely art, podcasts, comedy specials, and even professional wrestling for you at home. Laughs.org.uk. Donate today. Go on, do it for the laughs.
So, Carl, to bring you in a bit, how are you finding your
lessons?
How are you finding your lessons at the moment?
I'm really liking my instructor. I really like him.
Yeah.
It's different driving in Hertfordshire than it is driving in London.
Yeah, and obviously
it's a completely different beast. We're been on motorway, like going on motorways and all that stuff. It's really good.
See, what's baffling is I've only been on sort of A roads. You don't actually get to go on a motorway when you're learning around London.
But the thing is, I have to,
which is probably better because actually when you pass.
But the thing is, you legally can go on a motorway before you pass your test now.
Yeah. Oh, they changed that.
Yeah, they changed it. Yeah. Otherwise, I'd have been. Otherwise, well, if they haven't,
breaking all sorts of laws.
I may need to edit something out. But no, do you know what? It's complete. It's all complete. Do you know? I'm finding it really, really enjoyable doing it where I'm doing it, and I think it's because I now know that I have to do it. I have to get a car. Right. I have to do it to survive living where I'm living. So and. Because I think when I was living in London, right, it was something I'd have liked to have done, driving. But at the same time, when I was doing the lessons, always in the back of my mind, I was like, well, I'm not really going to be driving everywhere, am I? Whereas here, where I'm living, I will have to, just to get to the next town over.
Yeah.
I will, if I don't want to get public transport, because it will take an hour or so to do that.
Yeah,
I have to drive.
But it's like it is when it becomes this. And me and my brothers, there's three of us. There's 4 of us. Sorry, we were all in our 30s.
Which one did you forget?
My identical twin, actually, because he's the only one. He's the only one that's not learned to drive because he doesn't see the necessity. My middle brother's moved out to Folkestone, so he's learned. So he learned to drive. And also
he's got
No, the oldest brother has 2 kids, and he realised that you can't really take kids on public transport without it being really difficult. Actually, having kids in a car is a bit easier. So
it also starts to get crazy expensive when there's a bunch of you. I mean, this is why, in actual fact, for me, driving and getting the train is actually kind of similar in terms of, because if it's just me, but the minute there's more than one of you, suddenly the car's half as expensive, and if there's 3 of you, it's 1/3 as expensive.
It's the beauty of car shares and stuff like that. And to go back to comedy, actually, you are like gold dust if you are a London driver or if you're a driver that's...
Sometimes it's a contingent, sometimes it's actually a requirement for getting the gig.
Quite often it
says
is.
on the Facebook
No,
list,
it does, yeah.
Must be London driver.
It's like, geez. But, yeah. What's been your worst experience driving?
Spinning off the road in a smart car with a 7-foot Australian comedian in the car with me.
Who was the 7-foot Australian?
The late great Colin Cole.
Oh, wow.
Died about 2-3 years ago. Colin was an amazing
Hang on, not through this.
No. This is I'd only just qualified. This is in my first year.
Oh my God.
And we were late, and I was driving up the M1 in I used to have a smart car. I loved smart cars. I thought because I love the idea because they're so utilitarian. I've got this very utilitarian attitude towards cars. I regard them basically as tools. The good ones work and the bad ones don't. It's as simple as that, really. The good ones are the ones that start when you turn the key and or press the button, and the shit ones are the ones that don't. But I had this smart car that belonged to me and my first wife, and I was driving Colin up to this gig we were meant to be doing in Nottingham, and it was hammering rain and blowing a gale, and we just slid off the motorway sideways up this bank and ended up stuck between 2 trees. He forgave me good, which is because he was about twice my bloody size and I'm huge. But Colin was a fascinating guy. Colin used to be like, He used to be minder for visiting rock stars in Australia. You know, he was like you know. And I said, I don't know if he ever got around to writing his book, because I said, dude, you got to write your book. Because we have never read that book, you know, the book written by the 8-foot guy in shade standing behind Madonna. You know what I mean? We've never heard his story. I'd be fascinated by that. But yeah, that's the worst crash I've ever been in.
Was that on the way or?
That was on the way. Yeah, yeah.
Jesus.
And that was the worst crash I've ever had.
Oh my God.
And that was in my first year of driving.
But you both came out relatively unscathed.
Yeah, I came out completely unscathed. You know, but it was, you know, that was fairly traumatic. And in actual fact, you know, it was where we skidded. It was just by junction 20 of the M1 northbound. It was a long, slow grass bank with a very gentle slope to it. So there wasn't a ditch and there wasn't a wall. It was actually quite well placed to slowly decelerate us through drag before we ended up in the trees. You know, and I remember thinking about this. You know, for the next year of driving on the motorway, I was always looking at the verge and going, "Yeah, I would have died there. Yep, I would have died there. Yeah, I would have died there." You know, there was possibly
and do you say
only
this out
a few
loud,
miles of motorway where you can actually do that and not kill yourself. You know, and that was pretty traumatic. Yeah, so never did that again. Other than that, I mean, my hardest day driving was a day when I was going out with this lady who I was staying with her parents up near Hull. And I had a gig that night in Foy in Cornwall. That in itself was quite an interesting story, because I was doing my touring show about skepticism, and they booked me into a church without telling me. So that was a bit
Praise
weird.
be.
Yeah, that was so the gig itself was a bit of an experience. But I decided there was an offer of a hotel place in Cornwall, but I just couldn't. One of the things about having the car is I far rather, unless it's like really impractical, or of course unless you've got something else to do in the same neck of the woods the next day.
Yeah.
If I'm done, I would generally 9 times out of 10 get the hell out of Dodge. You know, because the other thing is you've got the roads to yourself.
Yeah, exactly.
So, you know, if the outward journey takes 4 hours and the journey home takes an hour and a half, literally, you know, sometimes, you know, it's just when I'm, you know, I mean, for example, you know, if I'm going somewhere like Norwich, I live in the southwest corner of London, right? So if you're going to somewhere like Norwich, it takes you 2.5 hours to get pointing in the right direction.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then on the way home, there's nobody there, so you just blaze all the way around it. But this day, I decided I wasn't going to stay in Cornwall, so I drove all the way from Hull to Cornwall, and then all the way from Cornwall back to London. That's about 700 miles in one day. There's really no excuse for doing 700 miles in a day if you don't live in Canada, you know. But that was probably the longest day of driving I ever did. You know.
I don't really cut you short, Mitchell, but as per you need to you've got to get off.
I'm going to go.
Yeah, we will count.
I'm going to go in about 5 10 minutes. I've got my phone here, which will tell me that I do actually have a gig tonight, and my good lady Mrs. Kathy has sorted out an Uber for me apparently. So she's going to. I will get the alert when it's on its way.
Okay.
So amazing. You know, we can keep going.
Oh, wonderful! Brilliant. Yes, yeah. Keep going. I was just trying to think of you, sir. If you wish to keep going, honestly.
No, I'll keep going until such time as this Uber turns up. What I will do is I'll message Kathy and I'll say, be sure to let me know when the Uber is nearly here.
Yeah.
So, you
know.
Now,
this is podcasting.
This is podcasting.
This
is live action. This is like is he going to make his cab? Is he?
Just so you know, Mitch.
Just so you know, Mitch. This the door over there. So
just so you know, Mitch. This is staying in, by the way.
Oh,
all the admin, all the
everything's staying in.
I mean, it's like, you know, that's the joy of podcasting.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, there are many joys of podcasting. One of which is particularly joyous for the likes of us who, let's face it, relish the excuse to wang on about something, if at all possible. Is the fact that you don't really have to worry too much about it making it accessible to the wider public.
No,
this is for our fellow obsessors, and the wider public can piss off. You know,
kind of going back on the topic, sort of maybe. But how do you, as a neurodivergent person, how do you feel about Ubers?
Well, I mean, it's easy for me, isn't it? Because, you know, look at me. You know, I can't be intimidating online, and I'm not easy to intimidate in person. There are very few situations in which I feel threatened. So it's very easy for me to be dismissive of other people's, specifically women's, concerns about Ubers.
No, absolutely.
You know what I mean? It's very easy for me to be, what are you bloody talking about? Yeah, because I've genuinely got nothing to worry about. But I understand. I mean,
do you like it when they start trying to have a conversation?
I kind of mean though, having someone else in control of the vehicle.
I'm all right with that because I didn't learn to drive until I was in my 30s, so that was the way until it feels to me relatively recently. Now I think about it, it's 25 years ago, but it feels to me a relatively recent development that I've been the one driving. So theretofore, I know some people are terrible passengers. Some people cannot stand being driven. Some people, I'm all right with that. I find maybe just because I had so long to get used to it,
That's a good point. Yeah.
Yeah, so that I don't really have an issue with. As regards to sort of the personal safety of getting into cars with strange people, there you go. Oh, she sent me under the. Oh yeah, thank you. Okay, he is booked for 6:30, so that's in about 11 minutes.
Oh, wonderful.
So we can keep going for the minute. Yeah, I have a gig tonight in Whitton. In sort of Twickenham, which is not actually that far away, but it's basically across town, south of the river. So it's like 9 buses, I think, to do about 4 miles.
I thought you drove here today, but you didn't.
No, not today. I actually do not have a car at the moment because I managed to break my car quite badly. In December at the beginning of the Dickens tour.
How did you do it?
I pulled out into traffic and got hit by a transit van that I think was going a bit too fast because he wasn't bloody there when I looked.
Basically, his fault, right?
His
fault.
I don't think the insurance would agree with you. I think the insurance
if you're listening, insurance,
well, the thing is,
always
the end of the day, I pulled out in front of him, and I think he might have been going a bit too fast because I definitely couldn't see him when I'd looked for him a second ago. Although it was, again, it seems to be always the way in pitch dark and driving rain when I get into trouble in cars, because it screws up your visibility, And anyway, it's now 2 months later, only just resolving this because, of course, I've got one of those ongoing deals with the car dealership in question whereby, I trade it in every 3 or 4 years for a not quite new one. So what that means is I'm not the actual 100% owner of it. So when the insurance, and of course it's insured in my wife's name because trying to get insured as a comedian is hilarious.
Really? Oh, that's going to be interesting.
Trying to get car insurance as a comedian,
you're preparing me for that.
It's just almost impossible. It really is. A lot of them just won't touch it.
Apparently, I was watching Martin Lewis the other day, and they were saying if you just slightly alter your job title, it can make a massive difference.
No, it does. It does. Yes.
So you could say.
My wife's an ex-civil servant and academic, so it's insured in her name, and I'm a named driver. It's all legit.
Yeah.
But because I've got this ongoing lease deal with the dealership, it meant when the insurance said, right, we're writing this off, I went, I'm not even sure I'm entitled to sign off on that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know if I even have the right to unilaterally say, yeah, go ahead, write it off. I think I've got to at least bring in the dealership because they co-own the thing, and then so it's been a real can of worms, but we're just in the process of resolving it. So I actually, and we exhausted our courtesy car privileges. They ran out a couple of weeks ago. So we actually do not have a motor at the moment, and I'm finding it quite emasculating.
Having to adapt without a car.
Yeah, it's weird when you can
so long without driving.
Yeah, exactly. So long without driving. The minute
driving.
it's taken away, you're like, oh. But it's it's amazing what you can get used to. As we all know from all the the advances in technology. I think about how I survived without one of these for the first 27 years of my life.
How did we survive?
Well, it is weird. I remember thinking, so I did this podcast that made money because it looks unfamiliar.
You did another podcast?
I've done lots and lots of podcasts.
We feel betrayed.
I'm sort of in the podcastorati these days, darlings. But I remember thinking, talking about a rumour that went round about a record that came out in the 80s, and then thinking, wait a minute, how did rumours work in the 80s? I know how rumours work now. They start on Twitter or Blue Sky or Facebook, and if you're trying to figure out if they're true, you do a bit of Googling. How did rumours? And then I realised, well, actually, rumours have been an aspect of human society as far back as we can remember, and social media's only existed for the past 15 years. So there must have been a way that rumours got about before that.
I assume in bars and you you have a chat with someone.
Yeah, maybe. But
they chat with someone, they chat with someone, they chat with someone.
Something like that, But I remember suddenly thinking,
carrier pigeons.
You write your the old push telegraph. And I was thinking, wait a minute, how did rumours work back then? And it is extraordinary. Just the sheer perpetual availability of everything.
Yeah.
And when you suddenly discover that a movie you're trying to see is not streaming anywhere or illegally on YouTube, and you actually find yourself getting quite irate. You know what I mean? Like, come on,
it should be streaming.
What the hell am I not paying anybody for?
Where is Whereas, you
find
back in the
it on
day,
DVD on eBay, and you're like, what? I actually have to press 3 buttons and then wait 24 hours and for physical object to come through my door. I'll have to walk over there, pick it up, and bring it in here. What is this? The 1920s? But it's amazing how fast you can get used to these. These conveniences that we wouldn't even have dreamt of in previous times.
Would you ever get in a driverless car?
Oh, that is an interesting one.
No, straight up, no. No.
I mean,
I wouldn't, because just in case, because sometimes with sat-nav and technology, they don't take into account certain country names and things like that, or roads.
Well, actually, Google Maps can screw you up like that, because Google Maps calculates everything by speed limit. So every now and again, you will find that you get within a couple of miles of where you're going, and then suddenly you vanish off up into the hills.
Yeah.
And it's because it's found this literal dirt track, which if you do it at 60, because it's unrated, so it's technically its limit is 60. Google Maps has figured out that you can shave 12 seconds off your journey time if you just vanish off into the woods for the last minute, and you just
if you go into the again, it's going back to, does time exist? You go into this portal and you come out
literally,
again.
and you just think, if you just stayed on the bloody A road, it would have been there 20 minutes ago. But Google Maps is under the impression that you could do this road at 60 because that's what the speed limit is, whereas you can barely do it at 12. And it consists entirely of blind bends on a single track. So you've got to do the whole thing. You have to inch your way around it. And it's Google Maps. It seems to be getting more intuitive.
Well, I did Google Maps having to walk back from somewhere, and it said, walk through this path. It will take you a lot quicker. What the path was a swamp. I'm like, yes, okay, I can really swim through that. Excellent.
Well, apparently, in the early days of Google Maps and Apple Maps and everything, they would occasionally sort of build in a ferry route and not bother telling you that it was a ferry route. So you suddenly find yourself sitting on this dock at 3 o'clock in the morning going, okay,
See, that's my worry with driverless cars. It would do shit like this.
Yeah, very possible. I don't know. I would be fascinated enough to give it a go just because I'm such a sci-fi nerd. You know what I mean? It's like there's just it's something a bit Minority Report about it, so I'd want to give it a go. You know what I mean?
It's almost that kind of little high, isn't it? Got to do something a bit.
Well, it's like the first time you made a video call, first time you ever FaceTimed anybody.
Oh my God, what is
this? This is all a bit Space 1999. Yeah, you know what I mean?
Still, where's our hoverboards? That's the one.
Well, yes, that's what's my song. Got a song called "Where's Our Hoverboards."
Oh, yes,
literally, I have a song called "Where's Our Hoverboards." But yeah, it's I don't know. Yeah,
I did not know that, by the way. I was just...
those luminous blue plastic segways with no handle. Those are not hoverboards. Those are not hoverboards. Those are segways without a handle. But yeah, it's well, this is I did a show a few years ago called "That Was the Future" about the various things that science fiction promised us that didn't happen. You know, and actually, I mean, I've just done Smirch Pod about Blade Runner, which is something John Rain and I've been trying to get together for about 4 years.
Nice.
Is to finally get me in and let me loose on Blade Runner, and I've just published on Substack an article I wrote for a film blog about 15 years ago, and I noticed it wasn't up there anymore, which is my defense of the original 1982 theatrical cut of Blade Runner. When I wrote that, I was the only person I knew who liked that version best. That idea seems to have gained a bit of ground now, as evinced by the fact that you can actually get the original version on, on Amazon streaming. And it used to be that, no, the Final Cut 2007 has supplanted all previous versions. Like Star Wars, you can't get the originals anymore.
No,
or got rejigged in the 90s, and then they keep getting rejigged every time they get re-released. And there is always talk that they're going to re-release the original 1977 cut, which would be lovely for pure nostalgia purposes. But anyway, Blade Runner is a particular favourite of mine because the things it predicts and the things it doesn't predict. So you have a future, a dystopian, which is of course now in the past because it's set in 2019. But you have this this dystopian future in which you have flying cars, humanoid robots, colonies on other planets, and no mobile phones. And it's the things that people kind of anticipated and things that people didn't is kind of fascinating.
It really is.
It really is. I mean, Douglas Adams came probably closer than most people because if you think about it, the guide was kind of an iPhone, The Hitchhiker's Guide was kind of an
wasn't
iPhone,
it? Thinking about
well, I did a documentary on Radio 4 about 10 years ago now called Did Douglas Get It Right? Because one of the last things Douglas did, I never got to meet Douglas Adams to my eternal regret. I know a lot of people who knew him and worked with him, and I know his daughter Polly, and she's lovely, but I never actually got to meet Douglas. Although my Zaphod is now canonical. That's another story. But I did Zaphod on one of the theatrical tours, as produced by Dirk Maggs. And when he produced the Owen Colfer book for the radio, he wrote me in as the voice of Zaphod's other head. So like my Zaphod is now canonical, which is great. Anyway, but
do you know what I love about having you on this episode? We've done about 5 podcasts in one. It's incredible. It is genuinely incredible.
You get your money's worth out of me.
It is genuinely incredible.
Is that you?
Kathy is calling me.
Okay.
Am I to take it that he is outside or something? He's 750 feet away.
Right.
Oh, the tension. We shall have to count this down.
Live,
where's he up to now? 725. 725
You're
feet
going to
in closing,
count
Captain.
down. And
I'm feeling like Mr. Sulu. 700 feet in closing, Captain. What's that? No, you... Well, it is like Alien. I'm going to put you on speaker. Here you go.
So, Kathy, you're part of the podcast.
Yeah. We're on the podcast now, Kathy.
Fucking gave you an update.
Well, I'm sorry, baby. You know, you call me when I'm on air. This is what happens. You know this.
Oh, fuck you.
So, no, hi, Kathy.
Hello,
Hi, Kathy.
Hello. Right, so you're telling me to basically, zip my trousers up and get outside and look for an Uber. Is that what I should now do?
If you're zipping your trousers up,
Yeah,
it's not that type of podcast.
Well, it wasn't until I got here.
X-rated, unmedicated's gone rogue.
That's the one. Yeah. Okay. Well, I'd take that as meaning that I should probably better make myself.
Very quickly, Mitch.
Yes.
Where can people find you?
Oh God. I'm the easiest guy in the world to find online. The next thing I'm doing of any sort of great interest is I should be doing. If you're in London, 4 Saturdays in February and March, as in the 28th of February, then 7th and 21st and 28th of March. If you're around on Saturday afternoon anywhere near Battersea Power Station, I should be reading The House of Pooh Corner at the Archers Lane Theatre.
Lovely.
That's my new little undertaking. I'm also very heavily involved with the Rick Mail Festival this year, which is in Droitwich. From the last weekend in May to the first weekend in June.
Lovely. What about anything? What about online? Where can they find your socials?
MitchBenn.com. I'm Mitch Benn on all the socials. You know,
Nice.
I'm very. I do like to be approachable, but it does mean you get approached.
Yeah. I mean, that is the nature of being approachable.
It really is. Yes. Anyway, I get the impression I had better piss off.
Yes,
So,
no, absolutely.
Yes.
It's your Uber. So.
Yes. All right. bye, Kathy. Bye, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Mark, where can I find you?
At Mark Nicholas Comic on all the socials, and you can follow my award-winning disability comedy night at Laugh Able Comedy Night. Mitch has done it before.
I've done it. It's fun.
Yeah,
Same
brilliant.
here.
See, endorsed by Mitch Benn. Fantastic. So if you want to catch that, we're third Wednesday of every month at Wanstead Library. And now, Carl, where can people find you?
I'm Carl Wolf. I'm Carl Wolf Says across all socials. I do have another podcast called the One Way Podcast where I talk about sitcoms and movies and stuff. That's currently finding a new home, so you can't re-listen to it yet. But I will be re-uploading the episodes, and I will be, re-releasing it to new audiences. So yeah, stay tuned for that.
If you've enjoyed this, please like, subscribe, and leave us a review. And we'd like to thank Laughs for having us today.
Thanks, Laughs.
Thank
Love
you,
you.
Laughs.
Love your Laughs. Bye. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
You are listening to the Unmedicated podcast, hosted by Mark Nicholas and Kyle Wolf.